What? I'm sorry, like, I didn't understand.
I identify myself as a Filipino American.
I'm pretty clearly white. I don't really have any qualms. I'm like European mutt, so I don't really have any ethnic affiliation.
I identify myself as Sudanese, and Sudanese is actually a mixture of, I guess, ethnicities or like identities, because it's a mixture of both Arab and African culture. So Sudanese like is the best word to just basically combine both of those.
I identify as Indian.
I'm African American.
I would identify as being first like African and Arab, but more specifically I would identify as being Sudanese.
I identify as Jamaican American.
I identify myself as an Asian American.
I am Dominican. It's a small island in the Caribbean.
I am Indian. I am American. I am South Asian. I identify as Chinese American, but more specifically, I'm Cantonese Chinese.
I'm Chinese.
I'm Filipino.
When I was younger, when I was growing up, I identified myself as American because I was made fun of in elementary school for having a different name and looking different. So at that time when I was growing up, I thought to myself, you know, I live here, I'm American, I don't want to be Chinese, I don't want to be Taiwanese. As I grew up though, and then I got to know about my own culture because I went to Chinese school and my parents were teaching me, I began to grow an interest in my own culture, and I realized that why can't I be both? And so I would say I see myself as Taiwanese American.
Culture, can you repeat it?
Cultural appropriation.
Appropriation?
Yeah.
Cultural appreciation.
Appropriation.
No, I don't.
No.
Yes, I guess.
Okay. So what is cultural appropriation?
Fucking no.
No.
Okay.
Could you explain?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
I believe so.
Is that when you take elements from, is basically like steal elements from one culture?
I guess what people think how you should act based on your culture.
Being aware of other people's cultures and I guess their belief systems.
When people hate on other cultures, most likely. I don't know.
Being aware of other people's cultures, I guess.
Okay, so cultural appropriation is usually when there's something that's very close or very likened to one culture and another group or another culture takes that and kind of turns it into something else, or takes it and mocks it, or just takes it and doesn't pay homage to the group or the ethnicity that whatever it is, whether it be a practice, fashion, whatever, whoever it belongs to, they don't pay that homage back to them.
Adopting anything from another culture that doesn't belong to you and like stripping it of its value and just looking and experiencing it on a very superficial level.
I think cultural appropriation is when like a dominant culture like would borrow a certain like characteristic or tradition from a minority without realizing like the consequences, and they don't know the history behind that certain like tradition or like
Taking aspects of cultures that are foreign to you without understanding the historical background in which they're created, taking and choosing things that have only specific meanings to you without, recognizing their larger meaning.
Basically, cultural appropriation is when a more minority culture is, their cultural values and such, and there's things about them basically are misused and misinterpreted by maybe like a more dominant culture. So I get, yeah.
Probably martial arts, like karate, is actually a lot more physical and like more discipline is involved with karate. But here in the United States, it's more like for kids, and it's like lighter. It's not really intense at all. So I'll probably say that.
Twerking. I don't know really anything about it, but I know that it has deep roots in West African culture. And it kind of just became, whitewashed, of course, as they all become.
Native American dress wear during Halloween is a big one.
It's always like the feathers and like Pocahontas type of thing. And I know it's always like in like the news how like certain tribes feel really offended by that because you have to like earn certain, I don't know, it's just, how to describe this?
Katy Perry in general, because a couple years ago she did do a performance where she dressed up as a Japanese geisha and kind of mocked the Asian culture in that way. And also, I've forgotten what music video, but she also mocked the Egyptian culture as well. She like tried to sexualize it and try to like downplay the importance and meanings of pharaohs and like temples and things like that, which I found very irritating because even though I'm not Egyptian, I felt very disrespected even like for them because of how ridiculous they looked in that music video.
People wearing bindis from Indian culture throughout, like, in everyday use.
Example, at Urban Outfitters, they sell like bindis just to wear, like girls wear them at music festivals, and I don't want to say they don't necessarily know what the meaning behind it is, but generally they're just wearing it just so cute, just for like, Instagram posts or something like that. But you should just be careful with that. You should know the history behind that, just so you don't offend certain people.
The dress that men wear in like Arab culture, but people refer to it as a dress, but it's like actually like in Arabic called the jalabiya. So people kind of call it a dress, so it's like inappropriate because it's not a dress. So you kind of like feminize what they're wearing, you know what I mean? So that I think that's common. Like people wear it for like Halloween costumes and mock it, but I feel like they don't understand the content of it, and that's what makes you like manly for wearing that, basically. If that makes sense.
When people try to use Spanish words like they know them, like they speak Spanish but they really don't, like
food. The Italians acted like they invented pasta, but they didn't.
Well, I know that there's this whole yoga craze now, and that everyone's into like namaste and om and like mandalas and all of this like Indian culture kind of things. So I guess that's kind of a cultural appropriation nowadays. People kind of just glorify Hindu values and Indian values without knowing enough about it. They just figure like since they do yoga, they're part of the culture.
Clothes, like the way like black people dress, not like the way, but like how, like, I don't know how to explain it, more like the way they sag.
A lot of music in America is based on black music, and a lot of it has been appropriated pretty quickly, whitewashed.
I think hip-hop, honestly, because I've noticed that so many times people say, okay, well, we're going to celebrate our heritage, and then they cue the illest mixtape from whatever black rapper, or people say, oh, I'm going to celebrate my heritage, and usually that just means they're going to take a hip-hop song which was created and formed by black people and sing it, and once you put a cover on it, all of a sudden now it's not black anymore. And so I feel like in those ways, it seems like other cultural groups, it's not a problem for them to take on their own, their own twist on hip hop. I mean, Hispanics have reggaeton and things of that sort, and don't get me wrong, like those things are awesome, and it's great that people are able to make them into something that, really hits close to them. But I feel like a lot of times they don't necessarily look out for the black people that put that music on in the first place, you know what I mean, or they don't pay that respect.
I know like it's like really popular, I don't know, it's getting pretty popular within the Korean music industries. They take like rap and hip hop culture, and yeah, and I guess they make it their own. I'm not really into it, so I can't say much, but that's one thing that comes to mind.
Okay, well, the N-word and ratchet and stuff, like, I feel like when that became popular, a lot of white people started using it. Like, they use it, and I'm pretty sure a lot of black people feel uncomfortable around them when they use it, too.
Let's see, I say a lot of modern black culture use of the word ratchet In terms of language, a lot of the, I guess, African American Ebonic terms or slang for short are being appropriated by all different kinds of cultures, which isn't necessarily a problem, but the problem arises when the culture appropriating it doesn't know the root or where that word came from. They aren't associated with the struggle, they aren't associated with the time or even just the people themselves to be able to use that word. And not necessarily saying that there should be a permission granted to people, just saying just know where the word came from, know the history of it, and then maybe you can use it appropriately.
It's like they want to be black, but they don't want to be black.
It's hard because, you know, people keep doing it and like no one's really listening to like the minority culture, and it just like keeps happening over and over again.
Oh gosh.
Damn. Some deep shit.
No, not comfortably. That is a very strange, deep word.
Prettiness, I guess. Being pretty, that's a hard question. Beauty's in the eye of the beholder.
I find modesty to be a big part of beauty for me. So I think that if somebody carries himself in a modest way, long dress, long clothing, that's something that I define as beautiful.
For me, it would be like a combination of characteristics that are aesthetically pleasing.
Something that has order.
Well, according to the media, beauty is like flawlessness. Like
You look and you're like, wow.
Also about being honest and genuine with people and understanding that you can be wrong at certain times and that you have to own up to your mistakes. I think it's very beautiful when someone can do that, when they can acknowledge their own faults and then say, I'm gonna work on it because I'm gonna be a better person. I feel like true beauty is, for society, is backstabbing and being false.
Yes, there is.
There's some kind of standard, I guess.
For guys, I guess like fit, short hair, I don't know, like symmetrical face, lean.
Six packs, abs, basically Aryan.
It's mostly white, obviously.
That jawline.
For women, same thing, skinny, hourglass shape.
I don't know, cause like usually they don't show it on black people or like any other race but white. It's like
Just like kind of like a Barbie doll, but not really Barbie doll, that type of thing. That's what I think of, like standard American beauty.
Like slim,
nice body, nice fucking waist, hips, whatever, I guess.
Skinny.
Petite, the small hips.
Long hair.
Long hair or like putting on makeup every day, making yourself seem like unnatural, I guess.
Subconsciously or not, it's always the Caucasian female with a skinny body, long legs, blonde hair, probably tan, and has a very fake personality. You know, one that's very liked by all, but really has no true friends because they all try tiptoe around her to get what they want, and they manipulate her to get it.
It's weird because it was always a Eurocentric idea of beauty, a very, you know, light-skinned, long, straight hair, thin nose, thin lips. But then it just seems like lately it's shifted to where more ethnic features are considered beautiful, just not on the people they belong to. So it's cool to like draw in your lips and have curly hair and like have dark skin, but not if you're born with it, only if it's something like that, like you draw on, or that like it's not really yours.
It applies to every ethnicity. I think that the minorities themselves have, I guess, a stronger pressure on them because they are minorities and they already have other struggles to deal with.
Oh, definitely not.
I would say no.
That's why it's a lot of like, I feel like controversy, especially with like black girls, where it's like, oh, they have to look a certain way, and then they get criticized if they don't look that way. Like, for instance, let's use like natural hair as an example. A lot of black girls, I could say, like there's like a movement, I guess you could call it, where a lot of them have been going from relaxed or using weave to going natural. And a lot of people have a problem. It's like, oh, their hair isn't combed, it's untidy, all that stuff. And that's them being them. But then if they're not doing that, they're being criticized. If they are wearing weave and all that stuff, it's like, that's not you being natural. They're being criticized for the same thing.
Well, I think the standard of beauty differs in different communities. For black, let's say for example, for black guys, right? Black guys that like black girls, they like very thick girls. They don't want a skinny girl. Even still, I think in the black community, we struggle to really embrace our own hair. So, guys might go for this, like straight hair, whereas when I have my braids or when I have, other more natural styles of my hair, they don't necessarily like it as much. So I think that there's still, I think the level of beauty in the white community, it kind of spreads itself into other communities. I think all communities are kind of on that same idea of like the fairer that you are, the better that you are, the straighter your hair is, the better that you are. But I just think that within each community, there's also like other standards that you might not necessarily think about, like, honestly, like how black men value certain parts of your body more than others. So, if you're very heavy on the bottom as opposed to the top, that's more acceptable.
Just even height, everything. There's so many things that are just impossible genetically to occur for certain races or within certain cultures and certain regions, that there's no way that everyone and every minority race or can just meet that certain standard of beauty that exists in the United States.
Okay, well, America is like, obviously it's cliche to say, but it's a melting pot and it's consistent of so many different ethnicities. So that one standard of beauty can't apply to all those different people coming from different backgrounds just because they have their own cultural preferences and their own cultural beliefs that kind of dictate what they're supposed to wear and how they're supposed to dress. I mean, everyone can be influenced by it, but it can't necessarily be the only way that everyone has to go by.
Not particularly, because I'm very, I'm like the most privileged type of person, a straight white male who's, pretty comfortable with his body image. So I recognize that it's a problem and that it affects a lot of people. But I don't personally have to experience it, fortunately.
Not me personally. Then again, I am a male. It's not as intent on, I guess, physical looks or aesthetics.
I don't know. I mean, I don't really buy into the whole, yeah. No, I don't really care.
I'm sure I don't realize it, but it must. It has to.
But like, I try not to let it sort of pressure me or like make me feel like I should follow the standards of beauty in America.
I had a cousin who my aunt started like giving her diet tips, and it came out of nowhere. And my cousin felt so upset. She actually came up to me and she asked me, am I fat? Do I look fat? What's wrong? And then like she was like a size 5, which was apparently unacceptable because she was supposed to be regarded as like a size 0 to her family.
You don't want to look like trash, I guess, because you gotta dress a certain way because to like conform, like, but at the same time you don't. But it's really hard to explain.
For me, I would just want to look nice every day, try my best at least. Maybe I'll put some makeup on just so I look presentable.
When I'm buying clothes, I'll be picking those ones more American style, and for me personally, because I'm come from a Chinese culture, we tend to be like prefer whiter skin than darker skin. So, but right now, I won't be worried about if I get tanned because I think it's fine. But when I was young, I used to be just not going to the sun because I want to be white, as always. I think it does, because as a young age, children are moldable and they want to fit the standard of beauty, so they do harmful things to themselves. So, I mean, personally, I had a lot of issues with my own image when I was younger because I wanted to be popular, I wanted to be liked. And it wasn't until I really thought about it and I went through a couple hardships that I realized beauty is so much more than just the outer shell.
I mean, it's something that society has, and everyone kind of bends to society's rules. So it's not like if I wanted to, if society hated something, or didn't want something, or found it to be out of the norm, and I did it, I would be out of the norm. Like, do you understand? Like, I wouldn't be considered pretty or beautiful because it's not part of the norm. Now, if society held something to a certain standard and I did it, then I could be held to the norm. So technically it does.
As a black woman, I face that all the time. I mean, you're always supposed to be fair skinned, straight hair, blue, preferably blue eyes or very light. It's all about being light all the time. The lighter you are, the more beautiful you are. The skinnier you are, the more beautiful you are. And I think that really just puts so many people on the outskirts, because if you really look at it, like, how many of us women are really just, blonde hair, blue-eyed white girls? Realistically, a lot of us are beautiful in the skin that we're in, but I think that the way media portrays it's like black women aren't supposed to be beautiful, or I think Spanish women now, they're kind of starting to get, their shine, and people are starting to appreciate their beauty. But I definitely think that there's a spectrum of beauty supposedly in America, and it's definitely like really light skin, really long straight hair, and then like the other side of the spectrum is thick brown girls.
In the media, it's not even accurate because it's all photoshopped and like touched up. So yeah, I think it affects you like psychologically.
My hair has been something. Like when I first went natural, everyone's like, what are you doing? Why are you doing that? I was so used to like straightening my hair, and before that I had it permed. And so when I went natural, I was still being compared to the Jasmine when I had my hair straight. And so suddenly, like, I don't know, I was being judged differently. So I was still being held to that standard, even by my family. And like, when I have an aunt that's always like, how are you going to get a job? Like, so what are you going to do with your hair when you like leave college? And I'm just like, I'm going to do what I'm doing now. I'm going to pick it out and I'm going to get a job. So it's like.
I don't know Asian beauty standards.
Ooh, this one's kind of easy.
Very extremely white skin.
And typically pale with black hair or blonde hair.
Well, I'm thinking very, like, old, like, very pale. Pale.
They're very thin, they're very pale, they have really nice, like, straight hair, they have round eyes, and small noses, and...
No acne. Acne's a big one. I had acne.
Like, ageless.
Like, when I think of Asian beauty standards, like, I think of, like, the celebrities on, like, the Filipino channel.
Kind of my lack of understanding of Asian culture coming through like stereotypical views from obviously film and music and all kinds of other things,
A lot of plastic surgery, having big eyes that look like dolls, pale skin. Yeah, that's it.
Being very small, and then long hair, and then a very, like, not a lot of makeup, like a very natural, almost like innocent look.
I would say like skinny, like no fat, because all Asians are really petite and thin.
Skinny, sort of pale-skinned.
It's all about the way that you carry yourself in a lot of ways, because I've noticed that girls who are a lot more outspoken, it seems, and this is just, just off my simple speculation, but it seems like the girls who are more silent or more regal, I guess, they seem to be viewed as more beautiful, whereas women who are more outspoken, who are not as concerned with the way that they look all the time, they usually end up being viewed lower on the spectrum as not as beautiful.
Girls that don't age?
I think the long hair plays a role. I don't really see too many Asian guys going after Asian girls with really short haircuts, which I think are really cute, by the way.
Beauty, they all chase to be thin. Definitely weight is a big problem. I see a lot of just pretty much little heavier, I guess, Asians, not necessarily heavier in my eyes or anybody else's eyes, but in their own culture, they're seen as a little heavier.
It's probably a size 0 or extra small.
Benz.
Well, what type of Asian? Asia is such a large continent. It consists of the Middle East, consists of like Indian.
Oh no. No, I didn't.
I did not.
Got me there. You got me there. Yep, I thought East Asian, because when you like see the stereotype views of a particular ethnic or racial group, you like have yours pretty far set. Similarly with African people, you think of very, very dark skinned people, and that includes North Africa. There's probably parts in South Africa that are more white now because of colonization, so it's like we tend to reduce them. I think Asia is like probably the biggest example, because I think it's like probably the most diverse continent. It's the biggest continent, I believe. So
I think because, especially being South Asian, I automatically differentiate in my head between what's considered Oriental Asian and what's considered South Asian, just because I've also had to grow up in that specific subgenre.
When I talk to other people, when they say Asian, they're not talking about me. They're talking about East Asians.
I think that South Asians are more, I just think they're more open to being brown. I think that being brown is just more acceptable in the South Asian community, as opposed to the East Asian community, where light skin is more prevalent. I think within the South Asian community, being brown is a little bit more acceptable. Having curly hair is more acceptable. Not necessarily that being light with straight hair is not important, but it's just that they understand color, they appreciate color and ethnicity, I think, more than East Asians are able to, as far as their standards of beauty are concerned.
It would be skin tone then. The lighter you are, the prettier you're considered. It exists in most South Asian cultures, from what I know of. There's even beauty products out there to help lighten your skin tone.
Yeah, because like growing up with like the South Asian culture, there are other things that we value instead. Like for Indian culture, we value like being light and like having like curves too. Like that's also valued. Like weight isn't as much of an issue. It could be, but I see it more in East Asian culture than I see it in South Asian or Indian culture.
Yeah, I have.
Yeah, I have.
Yeah, that's popular in Korea.
Actually, no, I haven't. I have, but I don't know what it is.
I have not. Enlighten me.
Talk TV co-host Julie Chun revealed on her show earlier this month that as a young journalist, she underwent plastic surgery to make her eyelids appear larger after she was told she would never become an anchor because of her Asian eyes. Double eyelid surgery is a form of blepharoplasty, a type of surgery performed on the upper or lower eyelid for functional or cosmetic purposes. Double eyelid surgery adds a crease to the upper eyelid to make the eyes appear larger. An incision is made along the eyelid and a piece of skin and sometimes some of the underlying muscle is removed. The skin is closed using stitches. The resulting scar forms a crease that creates a double eyelid. Double eyelid surgery is reportedly the most common form of cosmetic surgery in South Korea, Taiwan, and China.
I really don't agree with it, because I believe that the way you're born and the way you naturally look should be enough for you.
When I first heard of it, I thought it was ridiculous. Why would anyone want to change their eyelid? That sounds so painful. That doesn't But then when you think of it, it's because there's so much pressure, especially I guess on Asian women, to look westernized. I know in Asia they also have double eyelid tape, and I think it's crazy, but it just shows how much Western beauty has impacted Asia.
I don't think that people should be changing who they are. I think if you're born with single eyelids, be born and be proud. Like I wanted double eyelids for a while when I was a teenager, but after a while I was like, I mean, this is who I am, you know, why change it? So embrace it.
I feel like people have put like really like an emphasis on makeup and things and like makeup tutorials, and because of that people find that like you need the double eyelid just to like get into the makeup trends. And I've seen it a lot on YouTube where people will be talking about like how to make your lids like stickier so that they look like you have the actual lids. And like I have an Asian roommate, and she's always telling me about like how she can't put on eyeshadow as, you know, like other people would because she doesn't have the double eyelid. And I'm just like, well, it looks fine either way, and makeup is supposed to enhance your beauty, so I feel like if you actually were to just enhance what you already had, then you don't need the double eyelid. You just have to just stick with what you got and like make it the best version of yourself.
I think it's a bit ridiculous because there's no real point to double eyelids. I mean, unless you're wearing eyeshadow every day, no one's gonna care if you have double eyelids.
Double eyelid surgery, I think it's when Asians, they get like some surgery to where like it's like a tool and it pushes your eyelid up to make your eyes bigger, like that, right? Mm-hmm. And it's like trying to reflect characters from anime.
I think South Korea gets a lot of bad rep for the double eyelid surgery, but I know that in Taiwan, people get that too.
I don't think they should do it because it's a waste of money, and I think they're fine the way they are. So
I kind of feel like you don't need to get it because it's what's making you you. It kind of identifies you as a certain type of race or person. Like a lot of people want to get it to make them more, I guess, what, American or like more Western? Is that a better way to say it?
I think you know, people have the right to do with their bodies what they want to do, but I think that is indicative of a problem that, you know, we talked about earlier in whitewashing, trying to seem more Western because that is the standard of beauty.
I feel like there's different types of surgery. I mean, there's different types of surgery everywhere. I mean, we have where there's a huge culture of plastic surgery within the U.S. This is just clearly something that hits home with certain races, with certain cultures. I'm not a proponent for plastic surgery or any type of surgery, really, but to each their own.
My mom used to say, "Do you want to do that?" I'm like, I'm afraid I screwed it up. I was considering getting one, but I didn't.
Thinking that somebody would have to change their physical appearance to seem more beautiful for themselves really doesn't sit right with me. Then again, I'm not part of Asian culture. I don't know their struggle. I don't know the things that they go through.
I think it's okay, you know. Everybody, they have their rights to chase what they think the beauty is. Yeah, that's all right. I just think if it doesn't hurt that much to your body, that will be fine.
But I do respect people who get the surgery because they want what they want to do, and it's true. It's prettier sometimes, you know. So it's okay. Skin whitening it's interesting. It's very interesting.
Don't hear much. I don't hear much about it. I don't know.
Skin whitening? Wait, that's a thing?
People do that? That's crazy.
I hate it.
It's poison. Just know, just melanin is beautiful, and it just, no, don't whiten your skin. Whiten your teeth, but don't whiten your skin. I just don't know.
They shouldn't do it. I don't know, they should like love their color, the color of their skin.
I think it's silly in a way, you know, just that beauty is based on their skin color. But like, I'm not gonna lie, I think it has like impacted me in a certain way because I don't necessarily like getting too dark. Just because my mom would say something or my grandma would say something like, oh, you have to wear so much sunscreen, you don't want to look dark.
Well, I'm from Sudan, and that's an East African country, and there's a lot of skin bleaching that goes on there. I feel like all around the world it's pretty common, but just from my experience, I know a lot of people invest their time and money and so much effort just to be whiter, I guess. But I think I don't personally like it, and I hate how cultural standards pressure it so much on young girls, and it kind of like makes them feel, I don't know, like they're not beautiful enough, or they're not fulfilling something that they should, but it's kind of just like who they are. So I find it really wrong. I don't like it.
People should not bleach their skin because other people then look down on them for changing it when they were the reason that they changed it in the first place. And it's just like, you can't please everybody, so.
Why do you need to whiten your skin? I don't get it. Why do you want to be lighter? Why do you want to be whiter? Why can't you just be you? Why do you want to be more like white people? I really, not saying that anything is wrong with white people, but like, why? What's the point? What is it? It doesn't do anything for you. Your skin just ends up looking terrible.
At first, I thought that it was just because they lack vitamin D and they don't go out that much, or like maybe it was like makeup, but I'm not a big fan of being complete tan, but I wouldn't try to bleach my skin or anything just to be pale.
Like once I went out with a girl, and she's like, "Oh, your eye makeup is pretty, but why don't you put whiter foundation?" I'm like, this is how I look. It's affecting me because after that, I did try more white foundations, but it doesn't really look like me, so I give it up.
It was strange because whenever I wanted to buy like body lotion or body wash or face wash, it always had like an added skin whitening or like facial mask where I just wanted to, rehydrate my skin. There was always the added, chemicals of that.
I think it's unnecessary because honestly, if I were to be, like, I would myself would want to be darker, even though my mom wouldn't want that. I feel like darker skin is also beautiful, and like light skin isn't a necessity. And it's kind of, again, like aligning with the white supremacy theory, like how like we value that because it's in our mind that, white is right, and I don't think it's right.
Oh my God. Isn't that unhealthy? That's unhealthy, right?
I think skin whitening goes back to Western beauty standards where it's like light is right. So no, I don't. I think that it's terrible as well.
Being very light-skinned is popular there, and so much so that they like take injections just to like whiten their skin. That's what I can think of as far as Asian.
I don't know how to explain it because I've heard two sides of it. I heard first is that people are trying to look more white, as in more European or more American. That's why they want to do it. But then there's also, my parents told me the story about how not ancient times, but like before, people who had lighter skin were considered to be rich because they wouldn't have to go outside and work, and then that's why people like it. And I feel like in that sense, then that's just that culture's sense of beauty. And I don't think there's anything wrong with it.
Something I never really understood is why people would change their outer appearance, and not necessarily their natural outer appearance, meaning they're biologically given. I can understand like a new haircut or something like that, or maybe a new eyeshadow, maybe dye your hair. That's as far as me myself would go. But in terms of adding chemicals and stuff to your body to change your appearance, I don't necessarily agree. Skin whitening, I don't understand why anybody would ever do something like that. I don't know. Your skin's dark there for a reason. It's going to be dark. If you want a more even skin tone, I guess it's okay. But in terms of that, if you're doing that to make yourself, for you to have more self-esteem, you should have self-esteem in the first place. Then again, I don't know the struggle, but.
No, I have not worn cultural clothing.
Not necessarily cultural clothing. I don't think my race per se has any cultural clothing, nothing that's traditional. Like Africans have dashiki, Japanese people might have kimonos or something like that, but in terms of, we don't have like that standard dress for our culture.
My family is like very like westernized.
As a kid,
Yes. I mean, I define my headscarf as cultural clothing. There's so many different ways that people can wear it, and like just by the way someone wears it, you can tell where they come from, who they are, their background. So I find my scarf as something cultural.
No, because the only time you would wear that is within your culture. It's not like you're gonna wear it to school.
I'm gonna dress the way I dress, and if you don't like it, then that's your problem.
I always just wore it around my family, so it was like never a problem. But I could imagine, like, I don't think I would want to wear it around other people. And it's probably because I would think that they would look at me like, what are you wearing? You know, like that type of thing. But I mean, I have no reason to wear it around other people, so it doesn't really affect me that way either.
When I was younger, I had more of this fear of like, oh my gosh, I look different and I'm not like everyone else and I don't always have my hair out like all my other friends. But as I grew older, I guess this is like kind of part of my identity now, and I feel like a lot more comfortable. Like now I feel like I can walk into any room and I'd be perfectly fine. Like I don't see myself as an outcast. I don't see it as something like different. And I've actually had more people like approach me and like ask me questions and want to find out more about who I am just because like a simple like headscarf over my head.
Generally, I find that for my culture, I guess Chinese, like their clothing's like really pretty. So then I don't really care what other people say because it's my opinion.
I can personally like honestly say I never felt uncomfortable when I'll give an example, like wearing my hijab, but I feel like that's religious, like that's me being a part of like the Islamic religion.
My hair is natural, and I noticed it's not clothing, but sometimes I do wear it as clothing. Like maybe I'll adorn my hair with like golden clasp or something like that, something very specific to like African cultures or having braids. And I noticed that while some people of other cultures really appreciate it, and you know people of my culture definitely appreciate it, I also noticed that some people felt very uncomfortable by it.
Yes, because if I walk out on the street of my town wearing my Indian clothes, it just makes me feel like people think, you know, like something big is going on. And yeah, something big is going on. Like we have our events and things. So I just don't like being singled out like that, but I also like just showing off like all of our pretty clothes, so like.
I know that when I was working in retail, a person basically told me that my hair was too big and I needed to change it if I wanted to keep working there. And it was really frustrating because that's how my hair grows out of my head. And for somebody to tell me that the way that I am naturally is just not right, like that I'm just wrong from birth, it's like, how can you combat that? How can you combat who you are as a person? You know what I mean? That's who I am. I can't change that.
Actually, yeah. I remember I wore it to show and tell one day, and I was really, really excited to wear it because it was something really cool. But then I felt really out of place because my classroom was mainly Caucasian and like Polish, Italian, etc. So the red garb didn't really fit in with everyone else.
I think that being a black woman, it's like you're always walking this fine line. When I have braids or when I wear my hair very curly, it's like, oh, she's very radical. Oh, all of a sudden I'm this like super radical, super protesting soul sister all the time. And sometimes, and don't get me wrong, like, you know, I do fight for equality as far as you know, race and gender is concerned, but I also want people to understand that I have my own thoughts, and you can't just solely determine who I am by how my hair looks. But I think also just being who I am, or as a black woman, I think that also brings another kind of dynamic to it, because I realize that just being myself makes people uncomfortable sometimes. You know, as black women, we're trained to be outspoken, we're trained to be leaders, we're trained to always, you know, be on top of things. And I think that people find that very intimidating. And that's unfortunate because it gets to this point where I feel like I have to smile all the time in order to help other people feel comfortable, because they just automatically assume that I'm angry all the time. And which is crazy, because so many people of other races have said to me after they get to know me that, oh my God, I thought you were just so mean. I thought you were just going to be so rude to me, so mean to me. And then they get to know me and then they love me and they want to talk to me all the time. And so it's kind of like, you know, what can I really do to show you who I am before I even walk through the door? It's like I would love for people to get to know me for the loving, caring person I am. I mean, I'm a social work major, but unfortunately, people see my stature, people see the color of my skin, and they make assumptions based on that.
There's one instance in particular was when I was in Walmart, just a regular shopping store with my mother who was in a sari and I was in something similar, and everyone just turns their heads and you hear those comments about like having a third eye because we're wearing bindis. So there was a very clear dissonance between us and everyone else in the store.
Yeah, and that probably mostly applies from the time I've had any awareness of this to Muslim culture and even Indian culture, because people kind of conflate the two, obviously. So like people will think that the type of headwear that a Sikh would wear is means that they're Muslim, and therefore they kind of have their guard up and are a little bit frightened. And you see this at airports a lot because, you know, we've been taught all over the place to fear and hate Muslims. And that just comes, from, complete misunderstanding, because you see a turban and you think, oh, this means this, but, you don't have any understanding of it. But you see it all over the place. For the more of that stuff, because they've been demonized recently. Other than that, I think you'd see mostly like curiosity. You see people wearing traditional African clothes. You probably see, I haven't noticed any like outright hatred or fear or anything coming from people seeing them, but it probably exists. I don't know.